Tea Cozy Code Along. Welcome. Thanks for the intro, Stephanie. So here's our agenda. Our agenda is the same as part one if you were here for part one. But I'm going to introduce myself, me, and the project, set up your environment. This time I'm using Codecademy's platform instead of VS Code because my internet should be better today than it was last time. Last time there was a huge snowstorm and it tends to make my internet go out, it sucks. And then we're going to code, ask questions along the way in the chat, and I'll periodically look at the chat. And then we're gonna wrap it all up with a bow this time, for sure. We're really gonna do it. This is me. I'm a club captain of the Web Dev Club, as Steph said, and code crew member. I do web design and development. I'm currently learning C and crying about it. I did digital marketing too. So many things. Here's me with my 365-day cake for doing Duolingo, which I still have that streak. It's on like 470 now. Me and my sheep. That is Sean the sheep. I have Sean and Bangs. This is my rooster. I have four roosters. I have too many roosters. And then after my marathon in Toronto in 2023, which I've run two marathons. That's I also do pottery. I do a lot of things. So yeah, the sheep are so cute. I only get the sheep in October. So they're so sweet. I love them. Even if it's -20, I still like to go out and see them and play with them. Oh, they're great. So today we're doing tea cozy. I'm talking really fast because last time we did not get through the whole thing, and I know we'll do it today. I just know it. I have hope. So I'm trying to get to it. So tea cozy can be found in so many places. In the front end engineer, I think full stack, intermediate CSS, learn CSS. It's a Flexbox project, so it's everywhere. Flexbox is like one of those fundamental things in CSS. There's a design spec, which is like what you would get from a client or UX designer, and it's pretty accurate to what you would actually get. Along with image assets to guide you through the design process. And it assumes you have basic understanding of HTML and CSS. If you don't, you can just follow along because HTML and CSS are like the kind of first things that you learn in web development, and you can catch on really quick to syntax. I am gonna go over syntax a little bit because there's gonna be some things I say. So the HTML element is the entire element that's inside the little carets. There's the attribute name, attribute value, and then the attribute, the start tag, the end tag. I'll say some of these and I might say some of them wrong, but that's the idea. And then we have CSS, which is we have the selector. I'll definitely be saying the selector, which there's ID selector, class selector, element, and then the star and pseudo classes I won't get into at all. Property and value, and then the declaration. I usually just call the whole thing the declaration, which technically it's not, but that's what I call it. So that's one of those things that I'm gonna say wrong, but yeah, just so you know. Let's go! I like whizzed through that so fast just so I could get to coding. How did I move this Zoom thing? I'll just like move this slightly down. Oh, there you go. Okay. So I am using Codecademy's, I think they're called workspaces, maybe. And you can just build anything in here. Almost anything in here. So this is where we were last time, and I'm just gonna bring up, this is called the red line. So this is the design spec that you would get from a designer, and this is the one that Codecademy provides us. So we got our global styles, our header, no, sorry, not header. I think I called it header, it's a nav bar, our main section, and then we stopped at T of the month, and that's where we are now. T of the month is, I think this is going to be the hardest part, because you have so many different sections, and then we do locations, and then our footer. After we get T of the month done, it'll be kind of a copy and paste to get the locations section finished. So last time I'm just gonna like breeze over this really quick just to, give an outline. Oh, I did call it the header. Oh, because I have the nav inside the header. Okay. So we have the header section that we wrote last time, which is this with the T cozy and then our nav bar, and our main section, which is just our mission handpicked T's, and then T of the month, which is our section here where we stopped last time. And you can already see in the code, it's just a little bit more complicated. I'm going to open the style.css, and you can see I labeled this just with a comment, so it's the header. I didn't do that for the rest of it. I noticed. I think I was rushing to try to get through it last time. But that's one of the things that if we finish today, I'm gonna go back in the code and kind of fix stuff up to make it more readable and just like better quality code so that I can go back and read it and know where my main section and all my everything is, and it's easy. All right. Any questions? Anything? Just pop it in the chat. So, T of the month. This is what it looks like right now. If I move my screen size, it is a flex container, I do believe. So this is one of those things where um you have to make sure when you're writing code that when you go back to read it again, you're gonna know what's going on. So right now we have the T of the month section, which is this entire section, and I classed it T of the month, which is great. And then I have the title and then the little underneath title outside of this section, which I call T images. I might change that, but that's fine. So I'm gonna find my T of the month, and I didn't have any CSS for T of the month. And then my T of the month images, I did 300 by 200, which is this image. But in my opinion, I should actually do T images image because it would make the specificity lower. So I'm gonna move that first. That's the first thing I'm gonna do. I think I rushed this. So I'm just gonna do T images and then image, and nothing should change. Oh, I just there. Oh my goodness. It's cut off. Nothing should change about it. It's just more specific. So you're just like getting down to the specificity so that if I ever wanted to put an image here, just in this section in T of the month, um, I wouldn't accidentally, already have a style for it. Okay, so now let's look at what it actually has to look like. So there's three on top and two on bottom, but in my opinion, this is just spaced out. Like I don't think this is specifically three on top, two on bottom. If you wanted to make it that way, you totally could. And that's one of the things when you're developing, especially from like a red line like this image, like this design spec, although it is specific, um, the developer still takes some personal like leaps and like makes it their own. All right. So we have to make this section. They need to be centered, first of all, and they need to have some space around them. And then the width is also 1000 pixels. So I did this yesterday, just as a disclaimer. I practiced this yesterday and I did it 3 different ways before I got it correct. So I might do it again today. I might mess up because I deleted all my code, obviously. So I'm going to take my T images, and that's flex, and then wrap. And I'm going to justify content center because I don't remember what this is going to do. Did that put that in the center? It did. Okay, so now they're centered at least. All of them are centered. Perfect. So the T images is just that small section with the 5 in it. The T of the month and what's steeping at T cozy is already centered because all my text in this whole page is centered. So boom. All right. Space around. Yeah, I could do space around. Let's see it. I find Flexbox, although they're very descriptive names, it is a lot about like experimenting. Oh, that works. Space around. So it does give them space around, but you can see the bottom one is it's just not happening. It is not that, you know? Um, and one thing is that we can do is take T of the month, which is the entire section, and center that. Oh, I didn't copy that. Of the month. And then, oh, but then I'll have to display flex it. Yeah, that's the thing with that. That's the thing with that is I'll have to display flex and then and if I do that you'll see it'll all go in a row and then you do flex direction and you do column and then you can center it that way. But I think the easiest way would be, sorry, I feel like I'm rambling, I'm just trying things, is to center them so that they're centered on the page and then just give them a margin or padding on each side. That's what I would do because I don't need I don't need this entire section, including the title and the images, to be like a flex container. I just need the images to be a flex container because the T of the month is automatically just going to shrink and grow, and it's going to be in the center the whole time. If everything is centered on the page, couldn't you set the global value for everything except the header? Yeah, I think yeah. So all the text on the page right now is centered because I think we have this global. Yeah, text is centered horizontally in this global. So all the text on the page, whatever I write, is going to be centered. But actual containers, you have to manually center them. Um, so you need to display flex for each new section that you want to shift on the page. And then Laura says, or you can just do display flex for the entire section and shift items by mini sections. Yeah, so that's where this section, that's where it gets complicated basically, because when we did the header, we kind of split those two. So I think we did space between or whatever we did for the header, and then in the nav bar, we kept those in a row. And then for our mission, it was just like, one stacked on top of the other. It was easy peasy. And then when we get to T of the month, which we're at now, this is where it gets complicated because you have a section that you need to be a flex container, and then you have a section or a container inside of that container that also needs to be a flex container. So yeah, basically same idea. Um, and in the location section at the bottom, I think we're gonna run into that. I don't remember, but I think so. All right, so what I just did was, oh yeah, so I took all my images. My images are boxes with the little label under them, these things. This is their little label. And it's a flex container, but it's centered. And now instead of doing space between or space around or anything, I'm just going to take the T images and then images, and I'm going to add a margin to it. Because for me, personally, that's the easiest thing in my mind to do. 10 pixels, 0. I don't know if it's going to be top and bottom or left or right. It was top and bottom. This is what CSS is about. It's about trying things and then they don't work. There you go. So now we have our spacing. Try giving flex gap to separate the images. Oh, you know what? I totally would, except I don't use gap ever. That's one thing that I learned and then I never use it. So that's kind of one of the things where like that's why I say like for me personally I'll add a margin, but maybe for you you'd use a gap. So yeah. Um the images section is working beautifully, but now we just have to work on the spacing. Um there's kind of like padding Oh, there's also a 10 pixel space right here. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, let's definitely add that. So T image is image, but I don't want the image. I want the H4, I think. Yeah, so I'm gonna go T images and then H4. Um, there are other H4s on the page. If these were the only H4s on the page, I would probably make this kind of like a global style where I just style every H4. But because it's not, I'm gonna do T images, H4, and then was it top or bottom? Oh, I love when the zoom thing gets in the way. It just pops out and pops back down. It's on the top, but I think I should have one at the bottom as well. I'm gonna add a margin like I did before. And then I'm gonna do 10 pixels and then 0 on the sides. I think that's correct. That looks odd. Maybe I will do top or bottom. I'll do margin top. CSS really is just about experimenting. Ooh, that does not look good. Let's go back to 10 on the top and bottom. Why does it not look so good? Ugh. And it's also about making it look good. So just because my that's one of the things where just because my design spec says 10 pixels, um when you kind of start coding and it doesn't look good, you have to make those decisions. Yeah. The one with 10 pixels top and bottom, okay, I'll change it to 10. Beautiful. It's also I just want to add also that sometimes it'll say like 1,000 pixels width or like 700 pixels height or whatever, or 200 by 300. And it's your job kind of as the designer, your job is to make your site functional and also look good at the same time. So if you see those numbers and you're putting them in and they don't look good, grab a screenshot of it and send it to your designer and just with a solution. So, and just be like, this is what it looks like with your specs, but I changed a couple things and this is what it looks like with mine. And these are the specs, and I just think it looks better. And then, the team will decide if you have like a design team or whatever. But if it's not working well, it's kind of your job to kind of like go through those problems and figure them out because a lot of the times designers don't code and they don't know that the barriers that you're going to hit. So one thing is that these need to be, it needs to be 1,000 pixels. There needs to be some padding or some margin over there. So what we can do is do the T images. And if I do width 1,000, in theory, this should work, right? No, because it's not centered anymore. Okay, so let's back that up, save that, and look at our other section, which we have T of the month. So if we make this entire section 1,000 pixels, I think this might work. Again, in theory, it'll work. I think we can also do max. I think we can also do max width. Let's see. No, so it's still not centered. Okay, so I think we're gonna have to center the T of the month section to get our width. Is that right? Yes. What's vehicle? Is it vehicle height? It's not vehicle height. Viewport? Viewport height? I would say vehicle height in regards to height and width. So right now we're using pixels because that's what came in our design spec. But yeah, in kind of a real scenario, if a designer gave me this, I would strongly urge them to use either VH, which is not vehicle height, but I call it vehicle height, viewport height, viewport width, percentages or REMs or EMs. REMs are a percent of your kind of base
Cool.
measurement, which is 16 pixels.
Mhm.
Usually, almost all of the time, it's 16 pixels. So that kind of explains that, but not really. It has to do with responsiveness. So right now, I'm kind of because I'm using Flexbox, I'm making a responsive site, but if I used percentages instead of pixels, it would make it even better because when I grow and shrink things, they wouldn't just stay at, 10 pixels, for example. It would be a percentage of either like their parent container or the actual like your actual display, like the size of my monitor. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna stop rambling. This is why last time we didn't get through it because I just go off on tangents. So T of the month right now is 1,000 pixels, but that's not letting these be centered. So I do need to center. I'm gonna do what I did before, where I'm gonna keep that width there. I'm gonna do display flex on, oh, what am I
Mhm.
spacing? I'm gonna do display flex. Um, that's not what I wanted. Flex direction, a column, and then I think I need to do align items center or align content. When you do flex direction column, it kind of reverses what you mean. So if you mean a horizontal, you actually mean vertical because it's changing. It's changing the direction, the flex direction. All right, that also didn't work. Content, that also didn't work. That's awesome. Maybe if I take away the width, because I could change the width on T images. Oops. There. All right, now let's see. No! Oh my goodness. This is so much fun. I love this. All right, so we have flex direction column. This is for a T of the month. Okay. Flex direction is column. Align content is center. Huh. Huh, huh, huh. What if it is items? Because I got rid of the width. Did that work? Yes, that worked. Okay, perfect. And then um our T images wrap. But it's not really doing what I want it to do. Oh, it's not doing what I want it to do because I have T images as a width of 1,000. I'm going to change it to max width so they have room to grow and shrink. There we go. That's a lot of testing, but that's what it's about. Percent is a relative unit. Yes, relative units. That's what I was trying to think of. That's the word. All right. This is where I retired the skill pot. Yeah, okay. This is a lot. This project is like one of the off-platform projects that really gets you thinking and it really tests you. All right, so we have that all working, and now we just need to add some spacing to make it look better, basically. Let's add some margin on top and bottom of or some padding on top and bottom of the entire T of the month section, and let's do like 20 pixels. Oops, I keep hitting the wrong button. Sorry. Sorry. Let's add more than that. Let's add 40. I like a lot of space. When I design a web page, I will add so much space, but that's just me. I feel like that's good. Looks like the design. These need some padding or margin too. So that's T of the month and what's steeping. So if we look at that, it's an H2 and H4 inside of T of the month. Okay, so I'm gonna do T image is H4. I have 10 pixels. I can actually do T of the month, which is comma. T of the month, H2, and then T of the month, H4. They should all have 10 pixels of padding on top and bottom, or margin, sorry, on top and bottom. But the for each of the T of the month, you need a new class for that particular for each. No, you can just do it like this. So when you're doing it, when you're selecting an element, you can just do T of the month, the class, and then the H2. So it will be any H2 inside of T of the month. Oh, and then is this what you're saying? I can actually just do this. Yeah, because any H4 inside of T of the month. Will this work? Specificity in CSS confuses me. Like I feel like I need to go look at the chart every time. I think that's what you're saying, but yeah, that's correct. All right. So this looks good to me. I'm gonna actually add padding on this section. Am I? Or does it look good? If it looks good, I think it's fine. I don't think there's a problem with that being close to the images. I think it's fine. In my opinion, it looks fine, so I'm moving on. All right. Wow, I never thought we'd get here. Okay, let's go to the location section. So the location section is just another section. And we're going to go to our HTML. That's where that section ends. All right, I like to get all my text and stuff down before I start styling it. At least like for the section. So for the section, I talked about this when I did part one, but a lot of the time you'll put the entire HTML like page down. And as you can see, I'm not doing that. And I'm not doing that just because there are like, this is a section and it has no relation to this T of the month section. So I can do them separately, or I can put them all in my HTML and then style them later, and it makes absolutely no difference. All right, so section, and I'm gonna call this, I'm gonna give it a class of locations because it is locations. And then I'm gonna have 3 sections inside, which I'm gonna call divs. And I only call them divs instead of sections because it helps me personally not get confused when I see section, 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 or div, div, div. I know that there's a section and there's a div inside of it. It's just for readability. There's no difference between a section and a div, like code-wise. And then inside that section, or inside that div, I need to have like a title. Oh, I forgot the locations title. Oh my goodness. Whoops. I'm gonna call it an H2 because everything on this page looks like an H2. They all look the same. And this is the easiest way to style them, but in reality, I wouldn't do it this way. I wouldn't call locations an H2 because it doesn't have that much importance. And then inside my div, I'm going to put an H4 because I've used H4s along here and they look similar to this. Similar to this. And I have a page over here where I typed out all of this so I don't have to text it, so I don't have to type it, which is awesome. So we have downtown location, and then I'm going to put these inside of a paragraph. And you're going to ask me why I'm doing it this way, and I'll explain it. Because I tested this out yesterday, and this is actually the section that I kind of got stuck on, is doing these locations and trying to space out the text. And there's a few ways that you can do it. So we can change the line height of every paragraph element on the page, but I found that to be a little bit tedious and not like, what if I wanted to add another paragraph to the page? All right. And then I'll actually change this to an address. There's an address tag in HTML. It doesn't change anything. Um, that's it. It's just an address. It's kind of like a section, except it gives you the you can read it. You can read it. Gives you the name. All right, so there's three locations. I find this actually is the part that takes the longest when you're making like a website is coming up with the content. And I mean, luckily we don't have to actually come up with the content, but the designer's job when if they don't give you like a whole bunch of like lorem ipsums is hard. I will say one of the things it's gonna do, because this is we're using the address tag, is it automatically makes it italic. But we'll just change that later. All right, so we have our three locations right here, and their addresses inside of our locations. Oh, but you know what? I need one more div because I need this locations H2 to not be affected. So I basically want to do the same thing that I did in the T of the month, where I leave out the title. So I'm just gonna take a div and end my div down here. And does this hotkey work here? No. No. Yes. Okay, perfect. There we go. So now we have a section inside of that. So we can call this div. Should we call it? I mean, it's not called locations. Let's call it addresses. Addresses. That's a hard word to spell. So then we know that this div holds our three addresses. Save that. Go to our style at CSS and we'll do addresses and we'll do display flex. And then that should put them side by side. Wow, that looks beautiful. All right. Magic words. Yeah. All right. That looks beautiful. Our background is not right because if I'm gonna make our addresses, I need to make them black, but I need to take on my locations and change the background before I do that, just so we can see. And it just helps me. Um, Locations. I'm going to do background, and I'm going to do URL. I'm going to go to the T-Cozy project, and I think it's this one. And I'm just gonna copy link address. That's the one. I'm gonna put this inside of quotes, paste that long address, and then it'll show up and it's beautiful. That's the background. All right. So background position. Is that correct? Background position center? I think that's correct. And then background size, and we do cover because we want it to cover the whole thing. And that works. Our location section is just small, so it's not showing us. What's the address element? So I have our location section, if you can see that, sorry. This is our whole location section, and the address is just these small little things inside of it. It's just an HTML element. It doesn't really do anything. I don't know if in the past it did anything. Maybe it did, and it's just like they don't use it anymore. But for now, it's just the name of an element, like a tag. Um, and that's it. It just acts as like a div or a section. Yeah, so I'm going to change my address. I'm going to say addresses and then address dot addresses and then address. And then I'm going to do background black. And my three backgrounds are black. It's a semantic element. Yeah, okay. It's just semantics then. How does it differ from a P? A P is a paragraph element, so you can only have text inside of a paragraph element. A div, a section, main, header, things like that. They're just semantics so that you can read the text. It's not and screen readers as well can read the text. All right. So I need these centered. Also, how high is this? Yeah, I need a height, 500 pixels, because right now you can't really see anything. I'm gonna change the whole height. Oh, whoops. I'm gonna change the whole height. of locations. Oh, whoops. Height, and then 500 pixels. And I like to leave a space between my like groupings of styles. All right, so that looks a lot better. You can see that the image is centered. All right, so our address is display flex, and then I need them to be spaced. Need them to be spaced, but I think it's space between or space around. And I'm going to justify content space around because I want space around all of them, and then extra on each side. I think that's what that does. Is that what that does? Let's try space between. Whatever looks good. Oh, we're gonna do space around. Oh my goodness, we're gonna do space around. There we go. Space around. That looks so much better. All right. For the address after the class addresses, why did you need to address and not just addresses? Yeah, that is confusing to say, isn't it? Um, sorry, I'm gonna go back to my CSS first. So I did addresses, address. So my addresses, ad my class section of addresses is all three of these. So imagine just like a block here with all of those in it. My address is the HTML element, which is just this. So if I was to do just addresses and make the background black, it would make that whole row black and there would be no space between them. I just Control Z on here. Nice. There. And that's why. I need those to be centered. Do I need the whole location center to be locations needs to be centered? The entire thing. So maybe I will just do display flex. Oh, you know what? I have a better idea. Instead of doing the height 500 pixels, I'm gonna add padding. It's more I'm gonna say it's more responsive. Responsive? Uh, is that top and bottom? I forget
Hello?
every time.
Yep.
Oh, hi. Oh,
Okay, great. I'll be there in about
oh,
half an hour.
there. All right, so now we're in set. Well, they're centered because they have padding on top and bottom instead of having a height. I'm actually gonna reduce that. 250, I feel like is a lot. I'm gonna do like 100. I'm gonna do like 150. If I was doing this on my own, I'd either use like a percent or like a VH vehicle height. All right, I need to make these have more space. I need to make them look better, I just need to make them look better. So I'm gonna take the addresses. I'm gonna do padding. Uh, I think 40 pixels is definitely too much, but I want to see what it looks like. Yeah, definitely too much. Let's do 20 pixels on the addresses. That looks fine. Yeah, that looks good. Um, but we have to actually give these some margin. So that's what I was talking about earlier when I put each line into a P element. So I'm going to take address and then do H4 and the P elements and give them a margin. So I'm going to do address H4 and then comma address P. I'm going to do margin. Oh, we're really loading. Okay. Oh my gosh. I was like, what is going on? Let's give them 10 pixels. Let's do more. 15. Whoa, not 50. Not 150. 15. I feel like that looks good. It's not, they're not as skinny and they're not as spaced out, but it still looks good. It's still all there. Locations still is not looking great. And what is locations? I think it's an H2. It is an H2, and I have H2s a lot of the places. So I feel like I can just give H2s on the whole page margin. but I'm gonna come back to that. That's one of the things that you can come back to later. The it's all there, but it's kind of like come back later and fix that so you get all the stuff done. And for time, personally for time. So for right now I'm gonna go addresses H2. Whoa, somebody just called me. Addresses H2, and then I'm gonna do a margin bottom. I do 10 pixels because that seems to be a theme around this. Ooh, no, I'm gonna do 20. Oh, I did addresses. That's why it's not working. Oh, locations H2. I'm selecting the wrong element. I have to do locations H2. And then margin bottom. And let's try 10 pixels again. It probably looks great. Looks the same. Locations H2, that's right. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah, it is. Oh, S. I like how you just said S in the chat. I just knew it. Thank you. All right, perfect. There's a location section. And now we're on to the footer. Beautiful. Just on time. Um, so what I'm saying about the H2 is that's something I would go back to later because there are multiple H2s in this. Our mission, Tea of the month, locations are all H2s, and I kind of style them. I style the H2 here. I think I style my other H2s up here, or I at least do the text. So I do main text all, and then I give them a margin. So something you could do after you get all the content or after you're happy with how it looks, section by section or however you decide to do it, is go back and clean those things up so you're not repeating yourself over and over again. All right, we're gonna go on to our footer. So we're done with that section. Our footer, I'm gonna have in one section. For screen readers especially, I don't need to have multiple footer sections. I only want one, and I can fit all of this inside of one. So the quote unquote like easiest thing to do would be to make this a section and then make this a footer. But for like specifically screen readers, that's what I'm saying, is to make it all a footer. 10 minutes! How does this go by so fast? I actually don't know how it goes by so fast. I'm so glad that I copy and like I have all the text over here in a Word document. I'm gonna call this it looks like an H2. I'm gonna call it an H2 just for fun. H2. And then we have our mail. I'm gonna put it in an H4 because that's the theme of this um project. Oops. H2, H4, 4, and then I'm gonna have another H4 for my telephone number, but there are tags for phone and email. But that's also something that I would look at after I have all my content on the page. And that's like me personally, that's what I would do. Um, Coding is very personal, so maybe you wouldn't. I'm actually going to make this a section. Should I make this a section? I think so. I can either make this a section or I can make the bottom a section where it says copyright. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna make the copyright section a section. Copyright section a section. You guys following? Oops. So I'm gonna make a div down here. Whoops. Whoops. And all that's inside the div is, I'll call it an H4. Calling everything an H4. I call it an H4. Copyright. T-Cozy 2017. I'm going to update our copyright to 2025. And we're going to see how that works. Beautiful. So basically the T-Cozy section is like done for me. All I need to do is add some like padding or margin to my H2 and H4s. Um, well, inside the footer. Ooh, maybe I should have made that a section. Huh. Let's put it inside a section. It'll make it easier. So we're gonna take, whoops, sorry. See, I should have done it in the beginning. Hang on. Class this as contact. Save that. Shouldn't change anything. Beautiful. We're gonna go over to our style CSS. I'm gonna do contact, contact H2, and then dot contact H4. And I'm gonna call that margin. I'm gonna call that margin. Is this top and bottom when it's the first ones? I think it is. Do it like 20 times and I still forget. And then we do footer, and I'm gonna class that one as copyright. Save that. Footer, footy copyright, and text align. You can either do left, and I think you can do start. Save that. There we go. And then we have 20 pixels on the left. We can do margin left, 20 pixels. We're done. That's it. That's Cozy. I'm so I'm so glad I actually got through it in an hour. So my code right now is everything's there. Everything works, right? If we move everything around, it works. And then you'll notice some things, like they kind of look weird like this at certain points of your screen. And then as I was saying before, there's a lot of styling specific elements, like in the footer copyright, I style those, and then same as in the footer, the H2 and H4, I give those a margin, which I do at like 10 other times just in this. So my next step would be to go back in my code and comment things specifically, because I also didn't comment, but that's just for sake of time. Normally I would comment. Um, but I would go back and kind of find all my similar elements and update them so that I'm not repeating myself. One of the most important things in code is to not repeat yourself because you're making your computer do more work, and it impacts your load times of your sites and stuff. But even more personally more important to me is if I'm a developer and I'm going back to look at my code and I see that I've added padding to one specific element in my mind, I'm like, okay, this one H4 needs padding and no other H4s need padding. And then if I see it again, I'm like, why did I do this twice? It's just like you don't want to repeat yourself. You want your especially CSS code to be impactful. If I'm making the background black on this main text, just for example, I want everything else to not be black because why would I take the effort to type it and read it and look at it and run it? And I think that's the most important thing with CSS after you get it. After you get it. Because getting it and writing it is the first step. But yeah, thanks guys. Oh my gosh, thank you. You guys are so nice. Uh Finally finished it. I'm really proud that I finished it. Personal question. Which one is better? Justify contact space evenly or space around? Yes, it does depend on the requirements, like Karan said. Space evenly will space them evenly along the page. Where did I do that? Is it in locations? So if I do, oh, sorry, if I do space evenly here instead of space around, they'll just be spaced evenly and what's different? Space around gives them each margin around it. There's something to do with that. Is it that there's more space on each side? But it does depend on your, yeah, there's like more space somewhere. There's more space between here. It gives them like margin or something. There's something. It depends on your project, and in this case specifically, I don't think it would matter which one you chose. If you would send this to your designer or your whatever team to look at, or your client, and they came back and they said, "Oh, I don't like the spacing," then you could try space evenly or whatever else, or just adding margin to them and see what they like, or see what you like personally. Yeah, I'll stick to space around for now. Yeah, just try it out. That's it. Oh my gosh, we're at 357. I'm so proud, guys. I'm so proud. We actually finished this. If you guys need any help with T-Cozy, I will say I've been trying um to push the first video, and now I can push the second video where we finish it on Circle because I know there are a lot of questions. This is a project that a lot of people get stuck on. It's one of the very first off-platform projects, and especially because I've done this live now, and I know how nerve-wracking it is, like just to get into to get into code for the first time ever. I definitely will help you. Um, Space evenly has the same width at the end. Oh, okay. Yeah, it has the same width at the end as between the items. So space around has like kind of like a margin. Coming out of retirement to complete the T-Cozy project. I love that. And I found since the very first event, I have found so many more posts about T-Cozy, which I don't know if it's my fault, but I will take credit. Yeah. And the website is responsive. It's pretty responsive. One thing I would change is the pixels, but that would be one of the things that I would go in after. But it should be pretty responsive. The nav bar is not that great, and because we're using pixels for sizing, the text sizes don't change. But yeah, the header is definitely not. It needs to like stack on top of itself. Yeah, there we go. Wow, so excited. All right. If you guys have no more questions, I will
I can wrap it up,
stop.
Kelly, if that helps.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let me pause recording.